Sean OHagan was a shy but popular man who had no apparent enemies. He was severely beaten about the head and then strangled. He worked as a labourer doing shift work at the Gypsum Industries factory outside King's Court and lived alone in this extended cottage at nearby Kilmainham Wood, one of 10 houses in a cul-de-sac called Balinaclose. Sean was last seen alive at 7:30 on the Saturday evening of the 12th of this month, when he arrived home alone after shopping and a few drinks. All seemed well, said the neighbour who spotted him walking into the cottage with his groceries. But 36 and a quarter hours later, Sean OHagan was found dead on the kitchen floor. Nothing had been taken, neither the £50 in cash in his pocket nor his chequebook. Nothing had been touched, nothing had been broken. Whoever assaulted and strangled him had ready access to the cottage, therefore he must have been known to the murder victim. But who was he, and what was the motive? Sean OHagan's marriage broke up 17 years ago. His wife and their 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, went to London, where they've lived ever since. Sean stayed on in the King's Court area, a quiet, stockily built man who enjoyed the company of his workmates, backing a few horses and cultivating his garden. No one, it seemed, disliked him. So why was he murdered? Late on the night of Friday, April the 11th, there had been a serious fire at the gypsum factory, causing £1 million worth of damage. Sean had been at the factory at the time, and when the blaze had been brought under control, he had returned home. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. We've reconstructed Sean OHagan's known movements in the last few hours of his life in the hope that it may jog memories and give some clue to help solve the crime. He stayed at the cottage until 2:30 that afternoon, Saturday, when he drove into King's Court. His first call was to Finnegan's bookmaker's shop, where he placed a bet. It was 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon when he pulled up in the main street of King's Court, outside Freeman's public house. He was greeted by the landlord and his wife, then went inside to join some workmates. The first topic of conversation was, understandably, the blaze at the gypsum factory late the night before and in the early hours of that Saturday morning. One of those who talked to him was Tom Clarke, his friend for the past 14 years. How was Sean then?
No bother, he was in great form.
What was he talking about? What kind of things?
He was talking about horses and shrubs and flowers that he bought the Thursday even before that, and he was talking about going home to plant them.
Did he arrange to meet you later on or anything like that?
No.
Was he expecting any visitors? Did he say he was expecting anyone to call him?
No, he never mentioned visitors to me.
Have you any idea who could have done this?
No, I have not. Haven't a clue.
Sean stayed in Freeman's pub until 20 to 5. Where he went and who he spoke to during the next 2 hours and 20 minutes is still a mystery. He may have gone home to plant some shrubs, but no one saw him arriving or working in his garden. He was next seen at Willie Lynch's butcher shop in Kilmainham Wood.
He was always a good customer of mine every week, you know, and sometimes during the week, you know. He was here on a Saturday, mostly.
He came to you on that Saturday afternoon. What kind of mood was he in?
Oh, actually, he was in great mood, you know. He was always in good humour, you know. He'd always be in a good mood, chatting and joking and having a bit of crack, you know.
He didn't say he had visitors or was expecting visitors?
He never opened his mouth. He never says anything in that line at all.
And he was in good form? Nothing worrying him?
There was nothing, well, as far as I know, there was nothing worrying him. He looked to be smiling as usual, you know, and chatting and joking, you know.
Sean was a man of regular habits. On a Saturday night, he'd come back to Kilmainham Wood village and join his mates in either McKenna's public house or Keown's directly opposite, where they'd stay until closing time and then go to their respective homes. The meeting time at the pubs was usually around 9 o'clock. That Saturday night, Sean didn't arrive. The following morning, he wasn't in his usual place at 11 o'clock Mass. No one had seen him since he arrived back home from the butcher's shop at 7:30 the night before. No one, that is, except his murderer. At 7:45 the next morning, Monday, a neighbour and workmate who called as usual to take Sean to work found the body on the kitchen floor. Since the discovery, Garda have been questioning thousands of people in the area, piecing together Sean OHagan's movements, speaking to his friends and neighbours, tracing cars seen in the area that weekend, setting up roadblocks, verifying statements, but always the same answers. Sean wasn't romantically linked to anyone, he had no known quarrel with anyone, there was no apparent reason for anyone to kill him.
It was a great form, joking as always, and he was talking about the garden, he didn't get it in yet this year yet.
Here at Ballyborough Garda Station, a team of 50 uniformed and plainclothes Gardaí, including Detective Inspector Colm Brown of the murder squad in Dublin, had been assembled to hunt for the killer of Sean OHagan.
There was no sign of any entry to the house, any breaking into the house. There was no sign of any damage, and it would appear that whoever the person was had easy access to it.
Could this man strike again?
Well, it's possible, but we don't want to alarm the people in the area to any great extent. But of course, this is something that must always be kept in mind.
The apparent lack of motive is the most difficult problem for the investigating team to overcome. Their hope is that someone watching this programme may call with information, however trivial, which might help solve the crime. The fear is that the killer could strike again.